Today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Over the weekend, Trent Brown was signed to the Houston Texans. Does that mean the Patriot South is back? And if so, is that a good or bad thing?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, welcome to today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast. I am your credential media member, John Hickman, and on the other side of the screen, or for our audio listeners, for the other side of your headphones, Brian, Big Sarge Barefield, also credential media member, covering the Houston Texans. Thank you guys for making us your first listen of the day and for being a part of the Locked On Texans and the Locked On Podcast Network family, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On today's show, we will be diving into three topics. What are they, Sarge? Well, should we see Andre Johnson as a coach? Let's talk about that. Maybe he can help out the wide receivers here, especially the young guys. The Patriot South stigma is back after a couple of moves over the weekend. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I can't wait to talk about that. We open up today's show looking at Trent Brown. He will now be a Houston Texan, signed on Friday, I think, for a one-year deal worth $2.5 million or $3 million, around that range. You can look at him as a camp body. You can look at him as competition, but he is coming in to booster the depth on that offensive line. Sarge, let's talk Texans.
John Hickman, greetings and salutations. And for those of y'all who are watching us on YouTube, and for those of y'all who are listening to us, John and I have on cowboy hats. And Sunday was the last day of the rodeo. So, John, I'm glad that you decided to put on your hat as well. I think that you're looking mighty spiffy. John, I'm going to jump right into this thing. And okay, I get it, but I don't get it. I understand, but I don't understand. You remember, I want to say a couple of months ago when we were talking in depth about the offensive line, and I told you that the one person that should take the blame for the way the offensive line looked was Nick Caserio. Yes. And the reason why I said that is because, John, you and I were at training camp, and I have been at pretty much all the training camps that Nick Caserio has since Nick Caserio has been general manager. And the one thing that Nick Caserio does what? He stands at the opposite end of the field and he looks at training camp. During stretching exercise, he may be walking around, he may be talking to the head coach. But for the most part, while the practices are going on, Nick Caserio is looking. And, I don't know how many general managers do that. I'm not knocking Nick Caserio for doing that. I mean, because if he has to go and buy the groceries that D'Amico has to cook, then I understand it. But the way that offensive line looked, Nick Caserio knew that offensive line needed help the entire training camp. Because if we were able to see it, I know that he was able to see it. And his football mind is way better than mine. And I want to say that because, he was around one of the most brilliant minds in Bill Belichick and, everything that Patriots, organization did. And so his mind is way better than mine. So I'm sitting there. If I can see that your offensive line is getting whipped on a consistent basis throughout training camp, and then you got two of your players who aren't even practicing, well, 2.5, because Shaq Mason practiced some, didn't practice some, but you got two of your offensive linemen not even practicing at 2.5, and then you get them back, and then they still don't look good because they're not a cohesive unit. And so at that point, like, Nick Caserio knew exactly what he had and exactly what was going on. John, I'm saying all that to say this. Nick Caserio is going to be at the opposite end of that field again during training camp. And let me preface my statement by saying this. I don't know who they're going to draft, next month in the draft. So I don't know what offensive lineman they're going to get. But what they have right now, getting back to Trent Brown, I said all that to say this about Trent Brown. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand that you want depth. I understand that you're bringing in bodies. I don't know if they're just camp bodies or if they're actually going to stay. But you're not bringing in anybody that's going to move the needle as far as helping your team go to the next level.
I gotta stop.
All right. Hey, look. Hey, go
Let me
ahead.
come in real quick.
Come
So,
on.
and I can't wait to talk about the Trent Brown. I'm like 70% of a fan of it. I think again, what the Houston Texans are basing the performance on for the future, especially with the guys that they're bringing in, they're basing it all on coaching. They have a high regard for Cole Popovich. We've talked about this. And again, Cole Popovich is a guy that if it wasn't for the COVID rules, would have probably been higher in his career to this point. Now with Trent Brown, I've got a lot of experience with Trent Brown. Made a Pro Bowl for the Raiders back in 2019, won a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots. His biggest problem has been playing weight, motivation, durability. I think this is a great opportunity for Brown to get another chance. He could play in the league right before his injury. Did a very good job of protecting Joe Burrow. But what I'm going to do is try to make sense of Trent Brown being signed.
But wait, John, wait. Before you do that, please, before you do that, tell me the 3 things that you worried about again.
Playing weight, motivation, durability.
Ain't that what you just got rid of a couple of your offensive linemen for already?
And I think what makes the deal to bring in Trent Brown fairly good for the Houston Texans, 1-year deal, $3 million. We've seen Houston move on from guys that they've signed in the offseason before. And we've also seen Houston struggle in the past, especially last year, like the year before, tackle goes down. George Fant was able to step in and perform well, right? They didn't have it last year. And again, I think this is an opportunity for Houston to get a player that is familiar with both Nick Haley, also familiar with Cole Popovich, inside the building, come in, compete, right? But also, if he's playing well enough, especially in preseason during training camp, good playing weight, motivated, because when he's motivated, he's a good tackle. If he's playing well enough, then you have some insurance policy on the bench. And for Houston, that was an up and down issue for them last year. I think all across that offensive line. Now, the move to me screams, hey, we're not sure about the final starting offensive line unit right now. It'll be some great camp competition, and Houston isn't going to have a lot of outside zone runs. I think we'll see at the end of next season, we'll see a good amount of inside gap runs, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the addition of the other tackle Houston signed last week. Forgive me.
Cam Robinson.
Cam Robinson. So Nick Haley said it starts inside out. I think that we're going to see Houston run a lot of inside runs. Also, I want to mention that, listen, Bill Belichick, when he brought in Trent Brown, from San Fran, he attempted to build a heavy power running offense. And in that first year, that was something that the Houston Texans, the New England Patriots did when Trent Brown got to New England. When healthy, Trent Brown found himself one-on-one in one-on-one situations on 88% of his pass blocking snaps in 2023, the highest rate among left tackles. Brown only allowed just 7.1% of those snaps. He only allowed pressure on 7.1% of those snaps. Second lowest rate among left tackles. And another boost that you've got to look at Brown coming in for Houston is being able to play both the left and right side. Immediately when they moved on from Laramie Tunsil, we going to etched in Titus Howard to play, left tackle. Then they signed Cam Robinson. Now they signed Trent Brown. I'm not sure what the direction is for the tackle position on both sides of the ball, but Trent Brown does give you flexibility. Can he play left? Yes, he can. Can he play right? Yes, he can. And I also think it gives Houston flexibility to get creative with that offensive line and put the best guys out there. We've talked about on the show how valuable Titus Howard was for the Houston Texans at guard. This could possibly allow you to keep Howard inside at guard. This could possibly allow for the Houston Texans to DIY it themselves. And I'm probably the only person in Houston that believes this. Maybe experiment with putting Brown on the outside at right tackle, Cam Robinson at left tackle, maybe moving in Blake Fisher. Right. This allows for Houston to really put the best group of guys out there. And if Trent Brown isn't the best group of guys, then we can keep you on the bench just in case.
All right, so I got to disagree with you with some of the things that you said. And one, let me start off by saying this though. It's like listen to what a lot of people keep having to say, and it's almost like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about just people talking about both sides of their mouth. Because on one hand, Titus Howard ain't this, that, and the other. On the other hand, Titus is still going to have to be moved around. If I'm telling Titus, hey, don't get comfortable at one position. Don't get comfortable playing wherever we're going to start you off in the season, because it's more than likely that we're going to have to keep moving you. And these people keep complaining about Titus Howard going to these different spots. I mean, you're asking a guy to come in 3/4 of the season and then play another position that he hasn't played and to be effective. So That's the first thing. Second thing is this, John. You're bringing in a guy who tore his patella tendon. He's 31 years old. How do you know what he has left to give?
370, I believe.
Right, and I know it's 1 year. You're bringing in another guy, Cam Robinson, who has had injury, who's been injury prone and wasn't a very good lineman. Right. Third, you're bringing in a guy in Ed Ingram who was benched for ineffectiveness. So I see what Nick is trying to do. I don't like this narrative of everybody talking about, oh, it's going to be competition. It's going to be competition. It's going to be competition. No. The Texans don't need to have a competition this year. The Texans need to go in a direction knowing where they're going. You can't keep saying, and I'm not talking about you, John, I'm just talking about in general. You can't keep saying, it's only on 1 year. You're only on 1 year. The Texans don't have 1 year to waste. I don't know why people don't see this. They don't have a year to waste and push on to 2026. You can't come in and just do the exact same thing over and over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. And so you're bringing it in, and like I said, it starts with Nick Caserio. You're adding all these pieces that you're going to cut. And even if you do cut them, now you're still depending on the rookie. We got to go to the break, John. I want us to talk about this on the other side.
Let's bring that back. And when we come back, we'll finish that conversation and also look at probably one of the hottest topics right now, the Patriots being the South, the Texans being the Patriots of the South. Bad stigma, good stigma. We'll dive into that and more. You ever check your bank account, Sarge, and wonder, man, I know we ain't spending all this money. I know I didn't spend all this money.
This weekend.
I know.
This weekend.
I know for sure that money should still be in my account. Well, it's not. And we wonder where did all our money go? Between dining out, online shopping, Amazon, entertainment, it's always easy to lose track. But that is where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. They are not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending, all in one place. So you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was wasting. Now I budget smarter and I save more. Also, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track and share all of your personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. And also, Texas fans, with that money that you're saving, how about have some fun with it? How about head on over to FanDuel while March Madness is crazy right now? Hey, UConn, you out of there. Sorry, buddy. UT, you disappointed me once again. But March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a big chance to get in on the action like never before, because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet win. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and who's even cutting down the nets. You got your eye on a few underdogs this year. Make it exciting with FanDuel. With tournaments happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on, and the FanDuel app is simple to use. When you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Visit FanDuel.com today.
Welcome back, Locked On Texans fans and viewers, and thank you for making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day. We're definitely a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. John, before we went to the break, we were talking about the Houston Texans signing Trent Brown and how they have been going about this offseason as far as adding offensive linemen. I mean, that seems to be the biggest area. That's the biggest area of need. And so we're looking at Nick Caserio just consistently adding, players to that offensive line, especially after losing 3 starters in Kenyon Green, Shaq Mason, and Laramie Tunsil. And John, before we went to the break, I was saying that the Houston Texans don't have a year to waste. And so I understand what they're trying to do. I understand how they're trying to go about this thing. But John, it also goes back to this. You should have been planning better 2 years prior. You knew that you weren't going to give Laramie Tunsil an extension. You knew
that I agree. I heavily agree with.
You knew that that you were not going to pay Laramie Tunsil, and Laramie Tunsil was not going to give you a discount. And if he made another Pro Bowl, he was going to want more money. He was selected to the Pro Bowl. He wasn't an alternate. He was selected to the Pro Bowl. And so the more that he went on, like, okay, the penalties, cool, but he's telling you, I'm protecting your franchise quarterback. But in the back of your mind, you're saying, Laramie, we're not going to be able to pay you top 5 left tackle money because we got too many other obligations. So 2 years ago, Nick Caserio should have been getting ready for this. So now it looks like you're in a panic, and you're panicking to bring in people to replace Laramie Tunsil. But the people that you're bringing in to replace him is not conducive to protecting your franchise quarterback. So John, I mean, if I'm wrong, real quickly, tell me I'm wrong.
No, I think. And this is where I really enjoy the show. Like, I don't think you're wrong. I do think the offensive line moves have been underwhelming. Yeah. That's number one. And this is coming from somebody that agrees with trading Laramie Tunsil. This is also coming from somebody that maybe looked at that trade for Houston to say, okay, we're gonna kind of either we're gonna ride out with Titus Howard at left tackle, or we're gonna go draft us to left tackle. Just the confusion there, right? But I do believe that was the right thing to do. I look at the inside additions. You move on from, Shaq Mason, you release him, you trade Kenyon Green, and I really hope that he has an opportunity to shine out in Philly. But I'm to be honest with you, they are lacking guard promise right now. That's just a fact. I think the optimism for me does come in when I look at the tackles, because you can coach up good guards. Tackles, you kind of want your guys to kind of be already ready. And if you can coach up good guards and guards that can play downhill, to play that power run, to kind of move away from the zone blocking, to get a little bit easier football, then I look at Cam Robinson, I look at a Trent Brown, I look at a Blake Fish, and I think to myself, all you have to do is to be a body shielder. Get in front of that edge's way when you're running the ball and let that running back go right past him, and you done your job. All right. And I think that's why I can try to make sense of it. But the fact is, the names and the play, I think more so, like, forget the names. The play of the guys that were brought in are not the best. Like, where would you rank Cam Robinson? I think Trent Brown is a guy that if he was able to play a full season, the conversation about him now would be different if Houston signed him. Because I've seen good Trent Brown play, but I've also seen lazy Trent Brown play. And so, again, for Trent Brown, are you going to come in and change that narrative yourself? You've done it before, do it again.
And John, real quickly,
and I think that's why I'm optimistic about Trent Brown. Yes, sir.
And I mean, cut you off, but John, real quickly, because the mindset, and I don't know if all the fans have the mindset that I have, but my mindset is, okay, so you need 3 starters in these positions.
Yeah.
If you let Kenyon Green go, if you let Shaq Mason go, you let Laramie Tunsil go. So in my mind, John, I'm going to be honest with you. In my mind, every signing that you make is a potential starter. So that's how I'm looking at it. If these guys were being brought in as free agents and you already have solidified the positions on the line, I could look at it one way. But when you have 3 open positions,
and we're all saying competition for camp,
right, and that's available, now I'm saying to myself, okay, so what are you bringing these guys in for? And I go ahead.
And another question of mine is, what are you going to do with Titus Howard? Exactly. Honestly, I don't know what the move is going to be for Titus Howard. And again, we had a segment on the show. I can't remember how far back, but about the DIY, do it yourself. How can you fix some of these issues internally? I wish people could see what I see when I see Blake Fisher play, man. I really
Me
think
too.
Blake Fisher
Me
can
too. I like Blake
be a
Fisher.
good guard.
John,
And I think he can be one of those guys that you want a body moved inside. He can do that. I think he's a guy that can protect the quarterback from an inside. You get him under Coach Popovich and you just teach him up, which is something that they didn't get last year. His IQ of the game raises, and we're not worried about stunts no more because
and he a
he's got
dog.
that. And he's
He
a
a
dog.
dog.
Now,
So, John, but real quickly, John, I want to say this: if Nick Caserio can, reproduce what the New England Patriots had during that Super Bowl run, the time that you probably was talking the most trash to all of your friends and family members, people that you probably didn't know, you probably was talking trash to. But John, if they could recreate that, then I think that would be good. So, do you believe that the Patriot South stigma is starting to come to fruition, or is it starting to reveal itself with the Houston Texans? Because I look at it as, I mean, you got Nick Caserio, Nick Caley, Cole Popovich. You just brought in, you got a couple of players that you brought that played during the heydays of when these guys were with New England. John, is it a good thing or a bad thing that it looks like the Texans are trying to reproduce the Patriots South?
it's a good thing. It's a good thing because 2025 ain't the 2019. It's not the 2018 and not the 2017 Texans. It's the 2025 Texans led by a head coach that's extremely competent. And Bill O'Brien was a good coach. Let me not disrespect Bill O'Brien. But I think
defensive coach too, like the Texans got.
I think DeMeco Ryans is a needle mover, right? And they do have 5 players when you look at the guys. Trent Brown, who was just signed, J.J. Taylor, Jacob Johnson, D'Angelo Ross, Zach Thomas. But I think now when you look at that stigma, it isn't used to little bro the Texans. It's not. Now I look at that stigma when you have the trio of Nick Kelly come fix our offense, Cole Popovich come fix our offensive line, Nick Caserio put the roster together for those two guys to be not competent, but for those two guys to be successful in their role. Those are 3 guys that spent a long time in New England. And I think when people hear the Patriot South, let's just remove that out the way. Let's just say the winners of the South. It'll be different. But that is 3 guys that came from an organization that did a lot of winning in 20 years and know what winning looks like and know what sacrificing to win looks like. And Nick Caserio, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I wish we could be Texans of the North, right? Because we would have a Nick Caserio running things and I'll be a little bit more relaxing the general manager calling plays. I mean, calling the shots up there. So
you're talking about the New England Patriots.
The New England Patriots.
North.
So if I was flipping it, it'll be a positive thing. Remove the negative connotation that came with it several years ago. That's number 1 for me. And I do want to end off by saying I think more so the expectations surrounding the help. Before the show, we did the show Friday before Trent Brown was signed. I kind of broke down why I think this is a good thing. And when people hear the Patriots of the South, again, it's a negative thing. But when you guys have that trio of Cole, Caley, and Caserio locked in to help improve the issues of last year, then that stigma is, hey, help us. But now it ain't like, can we tag along? Now it's like, hey, we finna go dominate and get over the hump. And that's a good thing, especially when you know what your problems and issues are.
John, John, how many times does going back to your ex work? Like they're ex for a reason. Like how many times
you gotta ask what's the boy? Ben Stiller? Not Ben Stiller. The boy that just left J-Lo.
Yeah, right. I know exactly who you're talking about. So I'm like, well, you're looking at this thing, and I'm saying to myself, I get it. Don't get me wrong, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm a firm believer in the Patriots way was always Tom Brady. Like hands down, whatever Tom Brady. And so if you think that you have a Tom Brady and CJ Stroud, okay.
That's what I said Friday. That's exactly what I said Friday, and I think that's why I'm okay with that.
I get that part, but is Nick Caley Josh McDaniels? Like, have we seen that?
We'll find out.
Listen to what we're saying, though, John. We got to find out, because just as easy as he could be Josh McDaniels in New England, he could be Josh McDaniels with the Denver Broncos. Like, we don't know what he's going to be. He was still calling the plays, but John, but my thing is this: we don't know what he's going to be. We don't know what Cole Popovich is going to do. The only solid thing that we have to go on is we know Nick Caserio, who, by the way, was on his way out the door until he hired DeMeco Ryans. And so, like, we know what he's capable of doing. We went out and he got him a coach that's going to help him to continue to build this team. I don't know what these other two are going to be. And so, and how long, John? Okay, so if it's a good thing, right? If it's a good thing, how long does it take to become the Super Bowl winning New England Patriots? Like, how long is that process going to take? And do the Houston Texans have that amount of time?
Let's come back and finish that conversation, because I want us to really talk about that and then dive into Andre Johnson, the GOAT, and could he be the coach? Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. We're going to finish off our Patriots of the South stigma. Good or bad thing? I say good. Sarge says bad. Let me ask you a question, though, Sarge.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of years, nobody had a problem with the quote-unquote connotation. San Fran of the South, Jimmy Ward, Bobby Sloyd, Aziz, Corey Unlin, who was a coach. And they were coming from a program, an organization that hadn't won a Super Bowl since how long? But it was, I think the idea with the revamped offense and the Shanahan tree, like that made people proud. And you get somebody in like Jimmy Ward, you get Aziz in, that made people proud. Then last year, the issues from the offensive side of the ball from a San Fran guy, now he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I think for Caserio, I think Caserio is I think maybe you stop me if I'm wrong, man. Are your boys gonna bail us out, or we gonna be in the same situation again? And for the X comment, Texans, they never, it wasn't the X thing. They never got with him. It was an admiration thing. They were flirting with him.
Okay.
But now for Houston, like, let's be for real, they are one of the big dog type of up and coming teams. When you think of the AFC, you think of KC, Buffalo, Baltimore. You're going to think of Joe Burrow on them. And then now you got to start thinking about Houston. You don't even think about New England no more.
Nick Caserio going back to his ex. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the organization flirt. But real quickly, John, we live in a society of what have you done for me lately, right? We live in what have you done for me lately? And if you look at if the Houston Texans were trying to emulate the San Francisco 49ers or become the 49ers of the North, they're emulating what success, because you cannot deny that they did not have success over these last couple of years. I mean, before they were injury riddled last season. And so with that being said, I wasn't against the Houston Texans trying to be the New England Patriots back, and Bill O'Brien and all that. I wasn't against that because they were trying to emulate a winning franchise. Now the Patriots are on a winning franchise, and I don't know how you're going, if you're trying to recreate that. And I mean, yeah, everything goes in cycles. I mean, we're wearing bell-bottom jeans again, and I thought that was out of style, especially when the skinny jeans came, but that's coming back in style. My thing is, when is that Patriots way gonna make its way back around? And so, and real quickly, John, when I say what have you done for me lately, there was a time where if you shook the hand of Sean McVay, you can get hired as a coach. Remember, Cliff Kingsbury got hired just because he was friends with Sean McVay. And they was like, hey, maybe that'll rub off. What's the head coach in Cincinnati? He got him a job because of Sean McVay. Other people, if you made a comment about how great Sean McVay's hair was, we're going to give you a job. And so that's what, when you say, what have you done for me lately? That's what I mean. They were emulating the 49ers because the 49ers were successful. Like, I feel like if you're going to emulate anybody, how come you haven't emulated the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, they did sign Justin Watson. So. I will say, one thing that Katie said that, again, it kind of speaks to Trent Brown coming to Houston, speaks to Cam Robinson coming to Houston. They're gonna mix some things up. He mentioned duo gap runs in that press conference.
Yeah, but you got to go get some good pass, but you got to get some good run blockers though.
It's all about and we've talked about it. They believe that they're going to be able to coach these guys up, man. And I guess, let's say this. let's not do the Patriots or the South, because for somebody that covers this team and talks with Texas fans all the time, I can understand how that's annoying and comes off as a little bit pompous.
Yeah.
But let's do success in the South. Because what have you done for me lately? Okay, that team, and I don't even want to say their name anymore. That team hasn't been good since Tom Brady, honestly. But those three guys were there when they were winning Super Bowls, and they know what it looks like. And then one of those guys just won a Super Bowl with the LA Rams, and so this is a team that really is going to rely on coaching, the coaching aspect over names, and we'll see how far that gets them. Now, for
You get rid of
Andre
Shaq
Johnson,
Mason. Hold on, you get rid of Shaq Mason, bring in Trent Brown. You're gonna keep look. You got to keep your Patriot offensive lineman in somewhere. My bad, Andre Johnson.
you keep that rotation going. Andre Johnson, does it make sense for him to start taking on coaching duties? He's always in the NRG. He's always around. Why not
Yes.
just say, hey, give me a clipboard. Let me coach up some of these young guys.
I believe so, John, and I think that prior to this, all of this, he was still trying to make it into the Hall of Fame, and so he was still keeping that Hall of Fame push going. And there was probably some things some outside things that kept him busy, as he continued his push for the Hall of Fame. But now that he's in the Hall of Fame, and now that he has that out of the way, I would love to see Andre Johnson come in, and he doesn't have to be a full-time coach because that requires a lot, and I don't think that he wants to do that full time, but I would love to see him come in as a consultant and and work with the wide receivers, work with Ben McDaniels in helping getting some of these wide receivers ready. And not so much Nico Collins, even though Nico Collins can learn from him. I'm not saying that Nico Collins is on Andre Johnson's level, no, because he could also help Nico become a better big wide receiver. But Nico is on that trajectory. I need him to work more with like Hutch and Mechie, and just to get them into get them to where they need to be. Because if you have access, John, to an NFL Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Famer, then you should take full advantage of that, so he can come out there and teach these guys what made him or what got him to Canton.
Yeah, and I think for Houston, man, we just talked about that team up north being the stigma of the South and the whole nine. I think for Houston, this is a great opportunity, and it's really if Andre wants to do it.
Yeah.
Andre is a guy of not many words, but he is a guy of action. And so behind the scenes, we don't know what he's helping with right now, but I think you can get a mind like Andre in to kind of really work with some of these guys, and he's one of the greatest to play that position. It's all about all hands on deck for Houston for the next 3 seasons. I think even for like a responsibility of the media too, right? All hands on deck in terms of making sure that we put the best information out there, but specifically to the play of the players. Yeah, Andre, can you help us? Can you maybe help Xavier Hutchinson now? Hey, listen, Arian, man, we're gonna get a young guy in here. We already got Joe Mixon in that room, who's a great. Can you come in? And that relationship with the Houston Texans, I think, is getting better over the course of time, over the last year and a half or so. But wherever they can get help at to get every position over the group, I think they need to tap into it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know if Andre wants to do it or not, man. Like
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Does he want to do it? I think he can be talked into it.
Here's the thing for Andre. If I'm being coached by Andre, I wonder how many times I'll have to screw up before Andre just said, "Hey man, just because he ain't gonna want to talk no more. Just go sit over there." Next,
Maybe that's what you need though. Maybe they need that.
Down.
Maybe they need to hop in somebody's face and be like, "Hey, bro, you never gonna get it like this." If I was Andre, I would show up a couple of days with just my gold jacket on. Hey, you want this? You want this? You gotta listen to me. If you don't want this, I need you to go to the team store and get one of the jackets that got my name on it that say Hall of Fame on the back.
Thank y'all for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. I'll say this, guys, and I'm speaking personally. I don't like bringing up that team when I'm talking to you guys, but I hope I can convey people to understand where I'm coming from when I say this time around, it's a good thing. And regardless of if it's a good or a bad thing, you are counting on 3 guys, especially 2 guys, to fix the main issue from last year. But it's not a little bro thing. You're not being little brothers anymore. As a matter of fact, you're kind of one of the up and coming bigger dogs now.
John, wait, hold on, because I know you want the last word, but I have got to say this. John is the equivalent to the guy running around acting like he's CJ Stroud. Hey man, just be yourself.
Oh,
you ain't got to be CJ. You ain't just because you look like CJ don't mean you got to be CJ. Be yourself. Whoever you are, guy, be you. Houston Texans. You ain't got to be the New England Patriots. Just be the Houston Texans. Set your own identity and let people emulate you.
There we go. And I don't know who that guy. Him and Dylan Raiola got to stop. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. And as always, 3 favors, guys: like, subscribe, comment,
and make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports with a Z at the end.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Did you really just do that?
I did.